Hello friends, Namaskar. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Friends, today we are going to talk about a very interesting topic that is about retro planet, Bakri Greh, and how does it behave. I know there are so many videos and so many articles over internet about retro planet, but what I am going to deliver in this video, I think you will not find this concept anywhere around YouTube. So please stay tuned. Let me say that I have learned how a retro planet behaves from my Guru Sri Dipanswigiri, and I have extended his concept in my own practical examples of looking over many horoscopes. Friends, first of all, when any planet goes retro, the thing which retro planet does to me is I tend to ignore the significations of those planets. For example, this was a real life incident. Okay, this is a real life incident. Few days earlier, I was called upon by a friend to some place, and he said that he just called me and he said, if you are free, then come to the place called Surya Gate. The Surya Gate is, by the way, some 30 to 40 minutes distance away from my home. And I said, okay, I'll come there, we'll have some quality time and we'll have coffee, have some nice talks. So by the way, all this incident is going to be related to the concept of retro planet. Okay, I'm not deviating out from the topic, so please stay tuned. So I reached the Surya Gate and I see there was nobody hither and thither. I called her and said, what the hell are you doing? I am already in the destination. I've been waiting here since few times, but nobody is around here. So, and she said, where are you right now? And I said, obviously, where else I could be? I'm at the Surya Gate. And she goes like, Arey, you fool, I called you upon the Surya Vinayak Gate, not Surya Gate. And again, I have to start my bike, and the Surya Vinayak Gate, where the actual destination she called me upon, was again 10 to 15 minutes ahead from that place. And when I was riding my bike from the false place to the real destination, the thing which struck my mind was, this is how retro planet behaves. For example, I myself has Mercury retrogression in my chart, and Mercury is very seriously heavily retro in my chart. The thing which just happened at this incident is, you see, retro planet, the way how retro planet behaves is, retro planet tends to ignore the signification of its karakas, tend to ignore its own significations. By that I mean, Mercury is natural karaka for third house, natural karaka of my ears, natural karaka of how I listen to others, how I perceive the information, natural karaka of how I perceive the message, how I perceive the talkings, how I perceive the things told to me by others. That is a natural signification, core signification of Mercury. And what just happened right here is, as I said earlier, retro planet tend to ignore its signification. So me having Mercury retro in my chart, I just ignored the fact that she called me for some other place, and I misinterpreted her fact, not because she misguided me or she misinformed me. It is only because there is some defect mechanism inside me, some defect mechanism, the defect mechanism called as retro Mercury in my chart. And another thing is, okay, I have a retro Mercury, and for that reason I mislisten the information. I kind of listen the information. I do not listen the information fully, but I just listen the semi part of it. Okay, that's fine. But what is the karma? What made me as a person to took birth in a horoscope, to birth with a horoscope having retro Mercury in my chart? It is because, see, any combination, any position or any combination in my chart, that is, I have not got that combination or that chart haphazardly in my life. I have got those combinations only because of certain past karmas of my previous life. So a person with any planet retro, X, Y, Z, any planet retro, if I'm born with a planet of retro Mercury, it is only because I have ignored the significations of Mercury to a great extent in my past life. Because I have ignored the signification of Mercury, of perceiving the information in a proper manner to a great extent in my past life, that is why I have a retro Mercury in this life, because I have to pay back. I have to. This is kind of a course, or we could say this is kind of a pending karma in my chart, because I have to pay back to the real significations of Mercury. And how this signification will play out is, I will not listen the information properly, because the tendency to ignore the information, the tendency to deny the real perception of the person whom I am hearing information from, that tendency I have been through that tendency since my past life, throughout a long history of my past life. And that tendency to ignore its signification is kind of inherent in my DNA. That tendency is already encoded in my DNA, and because of that inherited tendency, I tend to just ignore the signification, and because of that, I tend to mislisten or misinterpret the information. But another side of this story is, uh, as soon as I reach the original destination where she called me upon, one thing just triggered my mind is, in my whole lifetime ever, in this life, throughout this whole life, I will never ever in my life forget the fact that this is the place where the Surya Binayak gate was. This is the place where she called me upon. The Surya Binayak gate looks like this. The Surya Binayak gate is posited at this place. I will never ever forget in my life. That is, because I have ignored the signification of Mercury, of perceiving the information so much in my past life, that in this life, the Mercury, the Grahe, the planet Mercury, will grab my collars and will force me to teach the lessons of teach me lesson in a such a way that I shall not repeat the mistake again. Because, as I said earlier, in my whole lifetime ever, I will never ever forget that this is the place where Surya Binayak is. That is like a focal point now. That is just embedded in my head. I will never ever forget. This is how retro planet teaches lessons in life. It will teach a lesson to an extent that we or I will never ever forget the teachings, forget the lessons. But the way of teaching the lessons, but the way of delivering the lessons in my head is kind of a harsh way. This will not teach me the lessons in a very positive way. Also, the fact is, another way how retro planet behaves is, something is really very odd with the signification of retro planets. What do I mean by that? For example, if someone has retro Venus in the sign of Libra, that too in first house, 7th house, and 12th house, then for sure we can predict that his sexual orientations is bit odd. He might belong to a LGBT community. At least he has really some very weird sexual orientations. Why? It is because, as I said, whenever any planet goes retro, its real original significations goes really haywire. It just goes really odd. And as we all know that Venus is Karaka for sex life, Venus is Karaka for relationship, and Libra is natural Karaka for relationship, and first house, 7th house, and 12th house. These three houses are natural houses of bad pleasures, natural houses of sexual pleasures. And Venus being Karaka of relationship, posited in a retro motion in the house of sexual pleasures, ensures that person to have a really weird kind of sexual orientation. But the interesting part is, if you really go and predict someone with retro Venus, that too in the sign of Libra, and let's say that too in the sexual houses 1 to 12, and you predict that you have a weird sexual orientation, then there are chances that your prediction might go wrong. Why? It is because, you see, all planets have their own natural speed, natural motion. What do I mean by that? For example, the planet Moon travels at the speed of 12 degrees per minute. The planet Sun travels at the speed of just 1 degree per minute. The planet Saturn travels at the speed of 0.01 degrees per minute. Similarly, Mars travels with a speed of 0.45 minutes per day. Similarly, Venus has its own motion of travel. And if I open a chart and I saw a retro Venus in 1/7 axis in house of sexual pleasures that we somehow linked with Libra, but the retro motion of Venus is, let's say, is not in its original motion, original speed of retro. The original speed of Venus is, let's say, some x degree per minute, but the speed of retro Venus in that particular chart was not to the mark of its own original speed, then this prediction will not fructify. And let's say another chart with retro Venus in house of bad pleasures, that too somehow linked with Libra, and that too that Venus too is being retro in its original speed also, then for sure we can say that this person, even though the person is not agreeing with me or agreeing with a astrologer to agree the fact, also I'm damn sure that this person has really some weird sexual orientations. This is another part of interpreting retro planet. And something very magical I have observed in my life is people with retro planet tend to do something very magical in their life. This is my observation also. But why is that so? You see, let me give you some hypothetical example. Let's say someone has a retro Saturn. Okay, the retro Saturn, let's say I entered into a office, into a company of someone. There are some managing director or chief executive officer sitting in a very high paying salary job, and I see his Saturn is retro. Now, one thing I can be damn sure is that because Saturn is retro, is it possible that he might get to that position at one go? Is it possible? No. Why is that? Because the way how I didn't reach to the destination of the Surya Binay gate where my friend actually called upon at just one go. I didn't reach there at one go but rather I took a zigzag pattern or took I spend my hard work time. I spend my time moving hither and thither. Sometimes I reach to another place called Surya Gate. Sometimes I reach to another gate called destination called so and so gate. I didn't reach there at one go, but before reaching the original destination, I have in my head the pile-upping of experience in my head to not how do I put it this to you? I have in my head the experience of doing wrong experiment also. I am damn sure that this is not the way to the Surya Binay gate. This will never lead me to the Surya Binay gate. This way will only lead to the Surya Binay gate. So what I am trying to linking up with this case of managing director is someone with a retro Saturn being posited in a very high paying salary job as a post of, let's say, managing director, then I'm sure that he hasn't reached to that position at one go, because he has moved to that position in a very zigzag pattern. It might be possible that he had done a job of peon or job of swiping the floor or job of any small paying salary job works, and only because he reached to that destination. And why I just say that people with retro planet will do magical things in life, it is because, let's say, there was a child let's say the son of Ambani or the son of a very high profile person, his post is granted to him by his father, by his forefather. Obviously he was from a very rich lineage and he was granted a post by his fathers and forefathers. Case 1 versus there is another guy in the same post, but he has been through all the difficulties, all the hard works, all the hurdles in life, all the zigzag pattern. Remember the zigzag pattern of doing work of a peon, doing work of a driver, doing work of a looping salary job stuffs. And if I compare the work from upcoming future to judge the work of both these persons, one who was gifted the high paying salary job as a post of managing director by his forefathers versus the one who has really earned that position by following a zigzag pattern. Obviously the chances of handling the post of the second person who has reached to that position in a zigzag pattern, the chances of he handling the post is much higher, because he knows the real ground reality of the company, ground reality of swiping the floor, ground reality of doing the he somehow knows the other side of his story also. That is why retro planet with retro combination tend to do something really magical in life. And let me add up another layer to this prediction. For example, suppose someone has retro Venus in second pada of Bharini. Okay, second pada of Bharini. One thing what we can predict from this is this person is destined to get a spouse who already has a health issues in life. He has to leave, this person has to leave all his family, all his job aside only to take care of his spouse. Why? Because you see, the planet Venus is retro, so he has ignored all the significations of relationship in his life. So in this life, the planet Venus will grab his collar and force him to take care of the signification of Venus. And why do I pick up to choose a prediction of ill health of his spouse? Because the second pada of Bharini, rises from, let me see, 16 degree 14 minutes to 20 degree. Any planets in the sign of Aries. In the sign of Aries, 16 degree 14 minutes to 20 degrees, this is the zone of Bharini. And this zone of Bharini is all the environment of this zone. The second pada of Bharini is filled with rogue, rin, satru, filled with disease, debts, enemy, all the 6th house stuff. So a person with Venus retro in the environment of all the 6th house stuff, retro Venus, remember this pattern, retro Venus in the environment of natural 6th house stuff, then he has ignored the signification of his wife, of his relation in past life, and for this life as a curse, as a pending karma, the planet Venus will grab his collar of his shirt and will force him to take care of his spouse. He will leave all his family, all his work aside and just sit down at home and take care of this person. Almost the life pattern will be as such. By the way, I have just entered the zone of nakshatra, how to use nakshatra, even nakshatra padas to make prediction. In my upcoming videos, I will come up with nakshatras and funneling it down even more deep down. I will come up with nakshatra padas also in my upcoming video. Till then, stay tuned, take care, namaskar.